Hi, this is Rob Anspach, and I am with Steve Sims, the CEO and founder of the Bluefish. And if anybody is out there that really wants to create a concierge service, this is the man to listen to. And as we go through this interview, you're going to learn some things, hopefully, and I think you're going to understand why ugly sells, and we're going to get into that. But welcome, Steve, and I'm glad that you could be here.
Thank you. I'm honoured and proud that you even took an interest in little old me.
Now, why a concierge service? I mean, what's the big deal about that?
Jeepers. Well, I just heard your intro, and if anyone came up to me and says, "Hey, I want to start a concierge service, what advice do you have?" I'd say, well, it's easy, don't. I never started to be a concierge. I'm an East London boy that was a doorman, tried to be a stockbroker. That failed badly. My only thing I'm qualified at is construction. I was a bricklayer in England. But for some reason, I started getting into parties, and I had a knack of just getting into things. And then people would go, "Oh, can you get me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, all right, $100." And it was just so simple like that. And then I had this delusion that if I knew loads of rich people, a rich bank would take me on because they wanted to get to my clients. So I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to sell it for $100. I'm going to sell it for $1,000. So with just that mindset, this party's $1,000. If you want to be in the penthouse with a lot of hot women, great music, great drink, it's $1,000. And that's how it happened. And people were like, "Oh, I'm flying to New York. Do you know anyone in New York?" And I'd be like, "Of course I do." And of course I didn't. And then I'd get home and try and work out how the hell to pull it off. And then 18 years later, still pretty much the same thing, trying to work out how to pull it off each day. But the good thing is we've done so many things now, our credibility tends to open up those doors pretty fast now. So nothing's really changed.
No, but you touched on something, and that's credibility. And without credibility, I don't think people would shell out the money they're shelling out to be a part of what you're doing.
No, absolutely not. You've only got one thing in this world, your word. Every scam artist in the planet still has a fantastic looking website, still has a lot of shit on the bottom saying, "as seen in the Wall Street Journal." These websites can go up in half an hour and give you the impression that they're credible, and then you've got to look for substance. And that's usually the downfall if you're doing your due diligence. A lot of people just look at a pretty website and go, "Wow, look at that pretty website, they must be brilliant." But with us, we don't have a brilliant website, and we are very credible because we do what we say we're going to do. We get interest from fine folks like you that go, "Hey, these guys are weird, they're a bit kind of like off the edge, they're definitely under the radar, but they do this in the Vatican, they do this in Moscow, they do this in the penthouse." We've been able to do enough that when someone does look under the cover and try to see if there's actually any meat to that, to those bones, they actually do find there's a lot of credibility and substance there. And quite simply, that's the only thing you've got. And as the don't get me on my soapbox, but as the web world gets bigger and more vast, and this element of instant gratification, I do think we're going to see a full circle, and people are going to go, "Well, yeah, that looks pretty. Everyone's site looks pretty. Everyone says that. What have you got that's different? How can you stand out?" And I think that's where we shine.
One of my biggest quotes that I tell people is money is the byproduct of trust creation. And you've taken that trust creation to a whole different level, because now people are shelling out thousands to be part of this symbol of trust that you've developed. And it's I go to your website, I'm like, wow, adventure and glory, and and I think it's things that are out of the realm of the average person, but if they would take a few steps or even model what you're doing, they could actually implement some of these steps that you're doing to get people to say, "You know what? Yeah, we can get you over to Italy. We can get you to the Vatican." It's all about trust.
You're so accurate there, and it just. I'm not overly educated. Everyone's figured that out from watching this already. But I just get it done. and I look for an angle to make sure it can be done, and I won't stop until it's done. And the second I've got one thing done, big shock or surprise, it makes the next thing I try to do easier, and so on and so on. So when someone phones up and they say, hey, I want to get married in the Vatican, or I want Andrea Bocelli to sing at the feet of Michelangelo's David, or I want to take over the entire museum in Florence, because I've done other stuff, then this is just another one of those things you go, all right, how do we do that? And we go about it. Anybody out there listening can do what I do. Absolutely anybody can. The trouble is they acknowledge fear. And if you don't acknowledge that you can't do something, guess what the byproduct of that is? And that's where I'm successful. So your statement is absolutely correct. I'm hoping that people can look at what I do, look at how I do it, get it ugly. I know you said you were going to get into that, and just utilize that, actually do it, because you'll be stunned to see what you can actually achieve.
My past is, I spent 20 years owning a carpet cleaning business, and we have a mutual friend, Joe Polish.
Oh, yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they get stuck in a mindset. I was stuck in that mindset for 20 years. Hey, I can only be a carpet cleaner. I can only be in this demographic. I can only be in this area. And I started writing books, and I started doing this, and I started telling people that I can do other things. And people are like, oh, okay, yeah. And I stepped out of that mindset and got into something bigger. And you touched on it. It's the fear. People they don't know how to expand their horizons.
You're right. You've got to get out of the way of yourself. People are too driven as they grow up to fit in a box. What do you look like? What kind of music do you like? You can't say you like a certain artist. You got to say you like a genre of rock. Therefore, you've got to look like this. And we get too much control in the following the pack. And if you're a carpet cleaner talking to a bricklayer, and there's everything that says, according to other people, that we shouldn't be having this conversation, okay? But we are having this conversation because we told ourselves we could have this conversation. And as you know, I've been following you for a while, and we've got Joe Polish, who's another misfit out there that's just turned around and gone, I can do this. And now he's a hugely successful dude at doing it. So you're right, get out the way of yourself. Start believing you can achieve whatever it is. Be stupid. Just go out there and try and do something that frightens you, and you'll be amazed how far you can stretch.
I see some of your pictures, and besides helping other people, you do a lot of things, I think personally to help yourself, de-stress. You go out there on your motorbike and you just go out and have an adventure.
Yeah, I'm a great believer. Probably one of the only things I discovered years ago was I love doing what I'm doing. I haven't worked for about 12 years now. It's just been something that I absolutely am thrilled to be doing all the time. And I love making people happy, and I love seeing people smile. And I love the passion and the drug of adrenaline, seeing these people get wowed when they're achieving their bucket list, regardless of whether or not I particularly like that genre of whatever they're doing. Seeing them get what they wanted and having that bucket list ticked off, I get off on that. But I do believe that everybody needs a safe place. And I believe everyone needs to be able to retreat to that safe place. And I know people that run, and when they jog, all of a sudden this euphoria comes in, all of a sudden they end up in another place, and people get it in meditation. I get it by screaming a dirt bike through the Mojave Canyon. Everyone needs that safety place where they can just retreat to, regroup, lose themselves, and just try different things in their head, and just get a reset before they actually step back in. You can't, as we all know, give 100% of the time. So find those moments so you can just go, well, I'm going into my place. I'm just going to check out for like an hour, 2 hours. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to paint a pot. I'm going to ride a motorcycle. I'm going to hang glide. I'm going to learn Korean, whatever it is. Just do something to get yourself away from where you are now, because when you get back there, you'll be far, far better tuned to doing what you do.
Now, is there any days that you regret the decisions that you've made to get to where you are now?
How the hell could I regret being where I am? You know, I get to spend other people's money and enjoy it along the way. Have I made mistakes which I got hurt on? Yes. Do I wish that I never made those mistakes? I've actually had that deep philosophy before. It's the mistake and learning from that mistake that teaches you and educates you, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I've often thought to myself along the way, had I been successful doing that, would I have stayed there, and therefore would I not be sitting here talking to you from Los Angeles and enjoying life? So there are lots of things that have happened in my life which I wish I hadn't have had the pain that went along with that education. But had I not had that pain of, nearly going broke more than once, having events cost me more money than I was pricing out, all of those things are education. And so I think the word regret is a negative. I don't think you learn from a regret. I think you learn from an education. So have I made mistakes? Millions. Do I want to do them again? No. Will I do them again? Of course I will. I'm bound to make mistakes. I'm the little guy that goes, well, what happens if I stick my finger in this socket? I'm that kid, like most entrepreneurs out there. So yeah, I'm gonna screw up, fuck up on many, many days. I'm sure of
it. Now, why LA? I mean, you could have chosen any place in the world. Why LA?
I did. I got 3 kids. I got 1 Brit, 1 Swiss, and 1 American. I've been traveling around for years. I actually started off in Hong Kong, Thailand, Switzerland, London, Palm Beach, and I just love trying new things and experiencing new things. But as a core, from the age of 14 years old in England, I've been riding motorcycles, and 48 years old, still riding motorcycles. So if you're a motorcyclist, riding up Pacific Coast Highway or driving a dirt bike through Death Valley or something like that, California is the hub of motorcycling. So I'm here not because of the extensive culture in Los Angeles, of which there's zero. I'm here for the sunshine, the beach, and tacos.
Yeah, in 2009, my wife and I celebrated our 20th anniversary in California. We started out in San Diego, drove up the coast to San Francisco, and we rode horses on the beach of Salina, and took a boat tour in San Diego, and took the Alcatraz thing, and it was just, but LA to me was just a giant tourist trap that it didn't appeal to me.
No, it's a very weird place. The funny thing is, I know very few people in Los Angeles. I know more people in the areas you've spoken about, San Francisco and San Diego, than I do here. And I'm happy for it to be that way. I'm not trying to step on anyone in Los Angeles, but I'm not in the movie industry. I really don't care about your modeling activities. I'm not that kind of guy that to waste my life with your bullshit. So Los Angeles being the capital of bullshit in the planet, I just tend to sit here up in my house, barbecue, and then ride out on my bike and ignore the planet. Or ignore LA, should I say.
My wife's grandmother is from England, and she's 98 years old, and she still talks like you do. I mean, it's just the accent and the in your face reality. And it's refreshing because we don't do that here. If we don't like something, we just turn around and walk away. And I'm like, what's that? Tell people how you feel. No, I'm afraid to talk. It's like, whatever, but and I think that's the ugly part of humanity. And as we get into this ugly thing, and you have this whole philosophy that ugly sells. Mm-hmm. And I mean, why? I mean, because we see everything that's in our culture, and it's supposed to be beautiful this and model this and gorgeous this, but now you flipped it upside down and say, you know what? Screw all that. It's all ugly stuff. That's what people want.
Yeah, you're damn right. You go back to Picasso, Cindy Crawford, everything was beautiful because of its imperfections. And as we've got Photoshop and smartphones, you see a gorgeous woman, an absolutely drop-dead babe, And then what do the arseholes do with it? They Photoshop her so she's 3 foot taller. You know, it's just ridiculous. A guy goes up on a billboard and all of a sudden he's got, you know, not a 6-pack anymore, he's got a 12-pack. We're seeing things that are so manipulated that we don't trust them. And you pick up a magazine, you go flick, 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 and you don't absorb anything. So I like the idea of keeping things refreshingly ugly. I handwrite letters. I grab my phone and I do little video messages. And I reach out to people in an ugly format because quite simply, you can acknowledge it's real. A computer and a fulfillment center would never send the shit out that I do, okay? I will find a book and I've got a pile, here you go, I've got a pile of books here that you know, my buddy Ryan Holiday and Kelly and Richard Tyler, they've all been sending me these books, and I'll read them through, and then I'll scribble a little note inside. I'll put it in brown wrapping, or another cool thing, Christmas wrappers. You know, put it in Christmas paper, because I've got old Christmas paper, and I'll send it to someone, and they will open it. Now, the books haven't cost me anything, because, you know, luckily my boys have been sending me these, but when I send it to a client, they're going to be like, what'd you send me this book for? I read it, I thought you would, put a little note in there, and I put a little circle around an area that I liked. It's real. It's showing that you're committed to your client. And if you want to have a client, if you want to have a customer, send them spam emails and send them postcards once a year. If you want a client, if you want someone that knows that you're thinking of them, then think of them. Send them a note. Do a little voicemail. Pick the phone up. Because emails, texts, SMS, messenger, tweet, twat, whatever, that shit ain't getting through because millions of other people are doing the exact same thing and we become immune to it and we're desensitized on the thing. So get it raw, get it ugly, handwrite it, always keep a bunch of these Sharpies nearby. Don't use anything too pretty, just go, Rob, great chat today, loved it. I'll reach out to you in 2 weeks with a proposal. Stick that on a postcard, send it to someone. Send a proposal by email, but just show them you took those couple of seconds to do the other way.
You know, in my book, Social Media Debunked, that I wrote in 2012, I have a whole chapter on handwriting notes. You know,
perfect.
And the busiest guy in the world, you know, the United States president, he handwrites notes all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And, you know, if he has a chance, I mean, if he has the time to handwrite, then why can't we, sitting in our cubicles doing nothing all day, why can't we handwrite notes too?
Well, it's not, here's the dumb thing, and there's 2 points on it. I've got on my desk, and I didn't know we were going to set this up, I've got this big, thick batch of postcards, and as you know, I did this thing in Florence, and I've had them turned into postcards, and I will literally just have them here so I can just scribble on them and post them out the same day. And funny enough, scribbling on a postcard or recording a little video message and emailing it or texting it to someone is faster than actually typing out an email because you type it out, spell check, got to get some grammar in there. While I'm on the email, I better include this. You don't keep it short and to the point. And when you get these long emails, you don't read them because you're too busy reading all the other emails. It just doesn't make sense.
You know, you're from across the pond now that you're living in the United States. How did that affect your language barrier? I mean, because over there in Britain and in Australia and in parts of Canada, they like to add "use" to everything. You know, and when I'm SEOing a website, whether it be over there or in Australia, I'm like, well, shit, you guys spelled this wrong. And then they slap me because I spelled it wrong. And it's like, ugh.
No, but that's good. It is funny you mentioned that, you know, harbor, color, solicitor, attorney. There's all these different words and terms that we have. As a British guy going over to Hong Kong, I was suddenly confronted with the British Australian. And then as I went down to Bangkok, I was actually confronted with Australian and American, and they were different. Okay, so by the time I got over here, I'd already had a bit of that experience. But you send someone an email or a letter and you've spent color, COLOUR, and they turn around and go, well, that's not right. Or check, you get a check in the post, CHECK. We bung a Q in there, okay? So you get it, and you're like, well, what's it? You know it's a real person that's sent. And then when you speak to that person, or you've heard them on the little video message that they've sent, you realize that they're English, and that's a quirk of doing a relationship or having a relationship with that person. It's your personal brand. And again, quite simply, as we've said it, I could correct it so that it's American, but then don't I lose that little bit of identity and that little bit of difference, which is what we all want in business?
You know, my biggest shock, you know, going from, you know, spending 20 years in the carpet cleaning industry in my little town of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, you know, I only had to deal with one time zone, one currency. Now I'm this author, and I go out and speak and help everybody. And, you know, now I got to worry about time zones. I got to worry about currency. I'm like, this is freaking insane. You know, and you're everywhere too. I mean, how do you cope with it?
Yeah, as my granddad usually says, that's rich person's problems. You know, no one gives a shit with you moaning about that. Oh, I've got to fly to Florence tomorrow. Woe is me. Like, shut up. So, you know, it's a situation. I can pack for a week-long trip now in about 10 minutes flat. So you get used to it, and it's just one of those things. So, you know, get an iPhone. It corrects the phone at the time wherever you are. It's not a problem. It's just one of those things you got to overcome.
Yeah, well, I had, you know, when I first started consulting, I had a chick from Canada, and she says, "Well, how much do I owe you?" And I said, "You know, $1,500." And she says, "Okay." So she sends me 1,500 Canadian, and I'm like, "Well, I just screwed myself."
Yep.
And I always forget because I'm so used to U.S. dollars. You know, and it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, no, I'm going to pay you in U.S. dollars because, you know, I'm, you know, UK dollars. Yeah, no, I'm not paying you that. And it's like, wait a minute. So it's, you know, there's a lot of lessons that I have to learn now because I'm more accessible to people.
Yeah, I've done it before. I've quoted people for an event and then realized, just like the Canadian US, that I've got it in the wrong currency, or I've quoted it in the wrong currency, or I didn't take into account the fluctuation, and I've been upside down for a couple of $1,000. Now, you're faced at that moment in time with two things. You either swallow it, or you go back to the client and go, I made a mistake, I did this, blah, 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 for $2,000. You know, you may have just charged them $80-something thousand. You're now going to phone them up and bitch over $2,000. No, suck it up, eat it, and mark that down as your school fees. You've just been taught something.
You know, what is the oddest thing that you've had to find for somebody?
Schnoodle. A schnoodle. That was. I'm not quite sure that's the oddest thing. You know, I've had some weird events and experiences I put together, but a client actually told me about a schnoodle. It's a dog that's got something in its fur that's hypoallergenic. That for their kids, you know, they could have these dogs and it would help them with the breathing. So, and they were from Mexico, and they wanted these two schnoodles, and schnoodles weren't raised in Mexico. So not only did we have to find who had these puppies available within the next 3 weeks, we also had to get them into Mexico. That was quite creative, shall we say. So importing two dogs into Mexico, it was a very strange experience.
Wow. I mean, to me, I think, you know, I'm listening to your stories, and I remember a TV show called The Finder. I don't know if you've ever saw it before.
No,
but,
I haven't heard that one.
You know, he finds anything for a price. And you know, when I first heard about you, I'm thinking, wow, it kind of reminds me of something. What was it? And then I saw this TV show again, and I'm like, huh. Now, you know, he was a little uglier than you. I'll give him that. And you know, he didn't have your sense of humor. But, you know, it could have been you. It could have been played on a story based on you. But, you know, this one took place, I think, in Florida Keys. And it was I think a fun little, you know, Hollywood version show that didn't last too long, maybe one season. But you probably have these grandiose adventures, but at least to the people that are listening. But you've been doing it for so long that is it still fun? I mean, do you still find fun in it, or is it more of a, oh, it's just a job now?
Right, well, before anyone listening to this hangs up on me, of course it's bloody fun. Last year I was in Italy for a client, and I had a client contact me because he wanted to do something in Florence, and he wanted to go to an exclusive restaurant in Florence. Now, in New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, London, all these areas, they have these exclusive restaurants, these members-only clubs. That doesn't exist in Florence. If you want a table for two in Florence, you'll reserve the table for two, but don't be surprised if you've just got 2 seats on a table for 24. It's farm style, it's family style. That's the beauty of Florence, one of my favorite places. This guy had a perception of what he wanted. So we actually, and I showed you on the postcard, we actually took over, I don't know if you can see this, we took over the Accademia, which is the gallery that houses Michelangelo's David, and put a table of 6 at the bottom of the feed. That's not Photoshop. That's actually from my iPhone. And we created this exclusive restaurant for him. And then just to see how far we could push it, I reached out to Andrea Bocelli and got him to come in during dinner and actually sing for the clients. Now, I was sat there on the bench at the profile of David, and I'm sat there on this little plinth with Andrea Bocelli. And I suddenly got goosebumps. And I said to him, I said, I feel like a little kid. I can't believe what I've just done. And I get really into it. When you're trying to get the Accademia to open up, when you're trying to get the food to be in there, when you want to make sure security's there, you want to make sure there's security outside ghosting, just in case anyone tries to burst it. When you're trying to do all those logistics, you're in the moment, okay? And you're just focused. You don't care if it's the Accademia, if it's the White House, if it's your kid's 12th birthday party. You're in the moment to get it planned properly. When it starts to all come together and everything's done and you're just waiting for the event to actually happen, that's when it all suddenly hits you and you go, shit, look at where I am. Look at what I've done. And no, I get off on that. It's what rouses me on time and time again. And it's my drug of choice. I just want to do it again. You come out of that moment, seeing the clients. I told my client I had this local entertainer that I heard was pretty good, who was going to serenade and join dinner. And the client was like, okay. And I walked in with Andrea Bocelli. And the faces were like, and that kind of moment. Now, that was obviously a big, expensive one. But those kind of moments when they just go, that's what I live for. And it doesn't have to be expensive. We've done amazing things. We had a client a while ago. He always went out with big restaurants, big over-the-top weekends. Wanted to do something for his girlfriend that was just really cool, really special, showed he cared. And he had been with her, and they'd known each other for a long time from school, stuff like that. We set up a picnic. And we got some people just to save the space, put it all laid out, have some drink, had some little sandwiches and some crisps. And, I think this entire picnic maybe cost us, I don't know, $30 with the wine, the champagne, maybe 150. But instead of taking her to a fine restaurant for lunch, took her up this hill. There's a picnic laid out with a little radio playing their favorite tunes. And that was really cheap and cheerful. But the thought was there. And she was like, because she'd always been used to going to a restaurant, sitting down, having people say, and so it's the attention to detail, it's the thought that gets the wow, not the price tag.
Yeah, but there's got to be some wows that you just want to smack somebody too, because, I at least coming from my perspective, I have clients that sometimes I just want to say, what the hell were you thinking? Get away from me. I don't want to deal with you. And it's not to say that they're not pleasant people, but they're just not the right fit for me. So, I mean, how do you tell somebody that has money that says, what, you're just not right, go away?
Well, as you mentioned at the beginning, the Bluefish has a application process. If you go to thebluefish.com, you'll find out there's no way you can phone us. There's no phone numbers on, there's no email. You have to apply for membership. That application then gets 2 interviews from 2 of our people within the group. We call them hosts. Once we've decided that you're the right fit, then we accept your application and we charge you $5,000 to become a member. So during that process, we can determine, well, you're not really the kind of right fit, and hey, thank you very much. May I suggest these companies? Or sometimes we'll just go, look, we're not that kind of group. We're not going to be working for you. So thanks a lot for your time, but adios, we're out. So we just think that it's best to be blunt rather than trying to grab someone's $5,000 and have a year of pain dealing with this major a-hole. So we would rather at the beginning go, it ain't going to work. I'm going to save you $5,000. I'm going to save you your time. We're going to move on. Thank you. And as you said, you've got to really try and deal with clients that you like, and more importantly, that like you. Because if you can resonate with your client, then it can go on forever. If you can't resonate, then they become a customer. And I don't want customers. I want clients. I want relationships. I want family. I want to walk down the street, see my clients all around here and go, hey, let's get to a bar and tell dirty jokes. Let's go and have some fun. And if I don't want to have fun with all of my clients, and I've got clients from all over the planet, totally different social status, from royalty, celebrities, to just damn right cool people. But every single one of them carries the same thing. They're self-made, they're very open-minded, they trust us, and we love them. Simple as that. And if we don't love them, we ain't got to take them on as a client.
Now, how do you some of your mates from overseas in your bricklaying industry, how do they take to your newfound fortune?
That's the problem with growth, isn't it? Any form of growth, whether it be financial or just, spiritual, home, whatever. There have been friends that have rejected and just gone, Sims is a snob, I want nothing to do with him. There's jealousy that's crept in. And I have a couple of boys out there that are just solid and really couldn't give a shit what I'm doing with my life. They still treat me like the arsehole that I am. Big shout out to Colin. So I love that. I love it that I've still got a core group of people that call it as it is, call me out when I'm being a prick. And those are the people that you want to hang around with. The fair weather ones that get jealous, I can't help your jealousy. I'm not going to pay you bar tab all the time, move on. But it happens. It happens. And you've got to be prepared for that. You've got to be prepared for that.
Now, how do you split, the time between your clients and your family, your kids?
There's been times where I've got it wrong. But I think what helped was actually scheduling, and it felt awkward at first. But I schedule time for everything. So this Wednesday between 9 and 1, I'm loading the dirt bike up and I'm hitting the desert. I'm just going to go out for about 4 hours on my own in the desert. It's scheduled in my diary because I'll schedule a meeting for $1 million phone call. I'll schedule a meeting for a dentist. I'll schedule a meeting to pick the kids up from soccer camp, but I don't schedule a meeting for me. That's ironic. It didn't make sense to me. So I schedule my time. I also schedule a lunch with my wife. I schedule a Saturday morning that I'm just going to take the kids and we'll go to the mall. I schedule it so that nothing else can get in the way because I prioritize that's that time. And that's really helped me, knowing that I'm not going to answer the phone call between 8 o'clock and Monday. There's all those moments that I do actually formulate. If it's not scheduled in here, it's not happening.
I rarely pick up the phone. I mean, I haven't answered my own phone probably for years. And I know that there's a lot of proponents out there. So, you ought to answer your phones. But my time is very valuable. And I know that if I answer someone's phone, I'm going to be on the phone for an hour, chatting with them, giving them free advice. And how do you deal with that?
Well, for a start, I never answer a phone number that I don't recognize. That's the first thing. If I've got people that phone up and they're in my system and it's going to come up saying, Rob, I'm going to answer the phone if I've got that time. I don't find it disrespectful to phone you up and to leave a message and then you'll get back to me with a time that works for you. Okay, I don't find that disrespectful. In fact, I find that a sign of the times when I'm dealing with busy people. If I phoned you up 10 times a day and you pick your phone up, then you're obviously not busy, you're obviously not successful, and maybe I shouldn't be bloody calling you because you can't teach me shit. So I find it very respectful to just not answer the phone, let it go through the voicemail, I will text someone and go, hey, I saw you called, but I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back tomorrow? Are we okay for Wednesday? Is there a time this week that we could schedule a time so that I can be in a place where I can focus on this? I find that all very respectful, and I get that with me. So if a client phones up and something's going on with the client at the time, then I can quickly answer the phone and say, hey, is everything okay? Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about something. Okay, I really want to have this conversation with you, but I'm actually with someone at the moment. I just wanted to make sure everything was running smoothly. Can I reach out to you Monday and we'll schedule a time? That's fine, Steve. And that I think works.
Yeah. Now, how do you take this whole social media, with your companies? Because, I mean, you deal with a lot of people that probably value their privacy. So how do you encompass social media? Because sometimes you really want to tell somebody that you did something, but you can't because of maybe a non-disclosure, because of their concerns, their privacy.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I can't, I don't, and I don't want to. Socially, sometimes I'll be flying somewhere and I'll just put in there, hey, I'm flying into New York, or you've seen them, and I'll put the pictures. There's a lot of pictures I can't put up. And that's fine. And then there'll be other pictures. They'll be, oh, yeah, I remember when I did this a couple of years ago. I'm going to shove that up there. So I find it's a great little nudge for my community. I never put a client's face up there unless it's a client that did it himself. If a client goes and posts a picture of going, hey, Bluefish got me into the Ferrari pits in Monaco, then we'll make a little note going, hey, I'm glad you had a good time. But we're not just going to go and take someone that's just spent 20 grand with us and utilize their pictures and that good time to blast all over our Facebook. We're not in it for that. And I hope anyone, and I hope you have, when we do post things, 9 times out of 10, we're taking the piss out of ourselves. And we'll often put somebody up there and go, can you really believe this? Someone sent me a picture the other day of a Louis Vuitton gas mask. And I just thought, I don't mind getting someone a limited edition Louis Vuitton handbag or something, but a freaking Louis Vuitton gas mask, that's just ridiculous. So we just took the piss out of it, as it should be.
I think the one picture that I saw of you and Joe Polish, you were holding this little purse. Like, I don't know if it was diamond encrusted. I don't know what but the price was like 60,000 or something. I'm like, for what? My kid has something like that, and it didn't cost me that much.
Yeah, you have those. You have those things. I do know the bag you were talking about, and it was just over 40 grand. It was actually a Louis Vuitton bag. But we had a client contact once, and if any of you out there, or any of the guys out there, you may not be aware of this, but there's a Hermes bag called a Birkin handbag, and these guys are probably the champions at marketing, because you've got to have been a good client, like 100 to 150 grand per year for 2 years before you can go on the list to buy a Birkin handbag. And then after about a year, still paying that amount of money, they'll offer you a certain amount of colors. And once you've bought those colors, then they'll give you one of the rare skin options. Basically, you've got to wait 10 years before you get the bag you want, okay? So we had this client of ours in the Middle East that contacted us, and they said, right, I need 16 in white. 16. So I went, okay, how long have I got? And she said, I'd like them at the end of the month. So we had to find 16. Now, here's where you think to yourself, okay, 16 bags that normally take a wait list of about 4 years. Once you accept it as a client, you can only buy 2 at a time. You're not allowed to buy multiples. They're very strict about that. So how do I get 16? So then she turns around and she says, well, one of the people that's getting this bag is very special, and it needs to be a crocodile. So the other ones had to be plain white. This one had to be crocodile white because of the social status of that person. And so we had to find 15 normal bags and then an even rarer one just for this other person. We pulled it off, but you should have seen me go down UPS with all of these bags, and the insurance on these were just insane. But we did it, and it was fun.
Is there any ones that you've maybe flubbed or couldn't get to the person in time?
Arrogantly, no. we've pulled off everything that's been requested because at the time of the request, we either know what our shots are or who's in a, you speak to people long enough, and as they start talking, you go, Ernie could help me there. Roger could probably be that person. So you're kind of planning it out in your head about what could be possible. There was an instant hang-up. I had a client contact the office, one of the team put them through to me. I'm lucky, I get all the really sexy stuff. We do travel and jet charters, and we do all of that kind of concierge stuff. What we're most famous for is the ridiculous stuff, and that's the stuff I work on. So one of my team contacted me and said, look, I've got a guy who wants to speak to you. So I spoke to him. He's like, I want to be a member. And I want to pay the membership. I want to get on. And it wasn't right. And I was like, well, why? Tell me, what can we do for you? What can we do to make you more interesting? How can we help you? What can we make your cocktail stories better? And the guy turned around and he said, I want to detonate a nuclear warhead. That's what he wanted to do. He said, I want to push the button on the most powerful thing in the planet. And we just said, right for us. Have a great day. And he wanted to pay more money, wanted to pay a retainer. We were like, thank you very much. You obviously need to get a doctor. You need help. Click. Just hang up. So that was it. So we did turn him down.
I can just imagine. Yeah. But, your connections, your Rolodex has got to be enormous for you to pull off some of these, miracles, I guess what people would probably call them if they're experiencing it for the first time.
I've got to admit, I flicked through my phone and stuff, and I looked through my diary and my contacts and everything, and then I'll stumble on something. I go, bloody hell, I've got that home number, and I've got the American Express black card, and some people have got that social security number for security clearance. I'm like, jeepers, they trust this bricklayer from East London. Oh. So it does actually kind of make you giggle there. A lot of the time, when people ask me for something, I don't know the person that they want me to reach out to. But I know someone in that circle, in that world, in that genre that I've either had work with, come across, got a relationship who knows them. So the whole 6 degrees, I can reach out to them and I go, look, do you know so-and-so? Great. Do me a favor. Just contact them. Let them know that this weird fella from England's going to phone up. He's got this idea, but you can actually tell him that he's real. He comes through and he pays. And so then I phoned up people, and I phoned up people before to get a long conversation along the lines of click. And then when I do that phone call, then I get them going, oh, you're Sims. Yeah, I heard about you. You want to do what? Okay, now let's see. And it's come through a reputable, credible source. And therefore it's opened that door. And then the next time I want something, I may actually phone them up, and I'll go, hey, do you remember you had that kind of weird reaction with me when we first started? Do me a favor, phone up Johnny and tell him I need his elephant for the weekend, and they'll make that phone call.
The stories, are incredible. And maybe, I don't know if you have a book coming out, but you go from nuclear bombs to elephants to handbags to, the list never ends. Is there any one particular one that just comes out and says, what, this is the one I'm going to remember the rest of my life?
Yeah. And that's the next one. I never know what my email is gonna tell me tomorrow, and that's one of the things. I get up in the morning, hug my beautiful wife, come out, get the coffee, push the phone, and just see, first of all, do I have any alerts or anything like that on the front screen? And then I start going through the emails to just look for that little nugget of arousal that just goes, oh, bloody hell. All right, now we're gonna have some fun with that. So you honestly have no idea of the kind of things that are just going to pop up. Some of them you just go, no. And you do get requests that sometimes you just feel are just insane from people that you think need help. And you just tend to walk away from those ones. But it's just very interesting. So, I've got the Bocellis, I've got the Formula Ones. Depending on who I'm talking with and what they like, I've probably got a pile of annoying stories. But the ones that stick in my mind are just, I suppose the most recent ones are the Bocelli and the Vatican and all the work I did in Italy last year. And it was just weird and wacky things. And this year, did all the award season, got some brilliant events going on for this year. So who knows what my stories would be like at the end of this year.
You know, I think you have the perfect job. I mean, you're like the poster boy for ADD for rich people. I mean, you're bouncing everywhere. And I mean, what's your favorite place on this entire globe? I mean, because you've probably been everywhere.
Oh, it's easy. It's my back garden with my barbecue, my dogs, and my family. Sounds a boring answer, but it is absolutely square on. You know, where's my favorite place to travel to? My back garden with my barbecue, my dogs, and my family. Do I like traveling? Yes, sometimes it gets too much, but again, no one's going to bloody listen to me. You know, when I've got to shoot off to the Bali or shoot into Poland or St. Petersburg. But you know, there's different things. I've got my favorite restaurants in Florence. I've got my favorite cocktail bar in London. So I know all of these places, which when I go to somewhere, I know I can feel at home in these kind of locations. And I love to travel and experience these cultures, these perceptions, these difference of opinions from different places in the world. I absolutely adore it, but there's no place like home.
Well, no place like LA, right?
No place like home. LA, yeah, I live up in the hills. I see more deers and coyotes, and I trust more coyotes than I do people in LA. So there you go. I'm going to get kicked out of Los Angeles soon, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm not on the board of tourism for Los Angeles. That's for sure.
You know, we're running out of time. We probably have a few more minutes, but what's one thing that you would tell somebody, you know, above and beyond anything that you've already shared here? What's one thing that you would tell an entrepreneur to do to make them more successful?
Don't listen to yourself. Everyone is so frightened, and there's every reason in the world that validates why you're going to fail and validates why you're not going to be successful. And there's so many people out there far more intelligent than you and better looking that tried it and they failed. But that doesn't mean that you can't. So get out of the way of yourself and just freaking do it. My old pappy used to say, no one ever drowned by falling in water. They drowned by staying there. And you're now listening to a thick as shit British biker that travels around the world doing some amazing shit and gets paid for it. So I'm sure you've got a couple more brain cells than me. Therefore, there's no reason why you can't.
Now, how do they get a hold of you, Steve? You know, I know you don't take phone calls, but you know, what's the websites that they can go to find you?
Well, we've got two. There's one, thebluefish.com, which is where they can kind of like see our media or subscribe to our newsletters and learn about really flamboyant ways to spend money. And then I've got another website called uglysims.com. And that's my marketing. That's where I rant and I personally give out my opinion on, you know, life, marketing, SEO, outsourcing. So it's just really where I just get on my little pedestal and go, fucking hell, this is amazing. What the shit we're doing this for? And I just rant and I do little videos and stuff. So if you're interested in expanding or getting an opinion from a quirky Brit, uglysims.com. If you've got a bucket of cash, you really want to do something cool this weekend, thebluefish.com.
You know, that was brilliant, and I appreciate everything that you've done here. I appreciate, you know, the stories that you've told. I mean, this was just exciting, and it was just fun. And you know, I hope that anybody that was watching this will reach out to Steve. You know, and you know, one of the things that I think Steve wants on his bucket list is a gorgeous head of hair like mine. But just, you know, have fun. I mean, and that's the whole thing about being an entrepreneur, is doing what you love to do. So, you know, reach out to Steve, just say hi. I really love this interview. You know, you know, and you can throw out some explicitives, you know, and say F this and F, because he'll appreciate that. He's a bricklayer.
I will, if I demand it.
But, you know, anybody who's watching, you know, thank you for joining, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.